everybody. Welcome once again to another episode of the Tigers Baseball Podcast. It is Season 4, Episode 1. It is March 25th, 2024, and I am going to make myself look like an idiot in the very first episode of my podcast this year. So, thank you to everybody for joining. For those who have subscribed to the podcast, thank you very much. If you're listening on YouTube, thank you for checking us out on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel. That way, I feel like I'm actually accomplishing something in my life instead of being as effective as a woodpecker with a migraine. Anyway, with all that being said, let's get into it. Not much to report on the injury front, which is good. If you look at the injury report on the MLB app, which, by the way, has become a steaming pile, thank you very much. If you look at the injury report on the MLB app, it basically shows a lot of minor leaguers, a lot of guys who are on the 40-man, but are not actually involved in the major league scheme of things. So people like Sawyer Gibson Long and people of that ilk. With all that being said, good to see Casey Mize make the starting rotation. I honestly thought that Matt Manning was going to make it over Reese Olson. I was kind of surprised, but looking at it from an objective standpoint and looking at it from a logical standpoint, I'm happy to see that Scott Harris and AJ Hinch made the right decision. And I suppose I should throw Jeff Greenberg in there too. We're so used to just Scott Harris and AJ Hinch because Jeff Greenberg came along so recently that it's kind of hard to put them in the same boat put him in the same boat with Harris and Hinch. So, with all that being said, I'm glad to see that they made the right decision because, first of all, you're going to need Matt Manning at some point. And it could be argued, oh, well, you're going to need Reese Olson at some point. Okay, whichever guy got sent down, you're going to need them at some point because Casey Mize hasn't thrown an inning in a major league game since April of 2021. Sorry, 2022. So his innings are going to be severely limited. At some point, you're going to need to shut him down. And when you do, you've got Matt Manning waiting in the wings to come up and take his place. And by that point, Matt Manning will have had a chance to refine the shape of some of the pitches that he's added. He's added a different kind of slider, and he's also been working on his fastball to be able to throw a different shape of fastball. Something with a different spin, a different vertical drop. So from that standpoint, he's done a lot of things that he's still going to need to refine and he's still going to need to work on. And it's better to get that stuff out of the way in AAA than it is in the major leagues where, look, in AAA, if your team doesn't make the playoffs, so what? You're AAA, big deal. Like, players come and go all the time on the AAA, on minor league rosters. Guys like Jace Young, who started out in high A West Michigan last year, went to Double A, and then ended up, if I remember correctly, ended up getting into Triple A for a few games. Guys like Jackson Jobe started out in Single A, went to high A West Michigan, and then went to Double A Erie. So the guys who are on your minor league rosters move up and down so much that it's kind of hard to maintain a winning team. The guys on your major league roster are going to be set. That 26-man roster is going to be set, and it's going to stay that way for the rest of the year, hopefully, barring injuries. Or barring somebody having just a really rough go of it and needs to get sent down to work some things out. Or people like Javi Baez who are making $24 million this year and just couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat in the middle of the ocean. So from that standpoint, your roster is set. You want guys to not have to be moved up and down. And so better for Matt Manning to get the kinks worked out of these new pitches down in the minors where he can come up to the majors and feel confident in what he's doing as compared to getting knocked around in the first couple of starts in the big leagues and then having to get sent down and possibly losing a little bit of confidence and then deciding, I'm not going to throw that pitch because every time I threw that pitch up in the big leagues, I got whacked. So he can go down, he can work on some things, he can make sure that his pitch shapes are right. And then in doing that, he can come back to the majors and be effective and confident and have the ability to do what needs to be done. So, smart decision on the part of Harris, Greenberg, and Hinch, which sounds like a law firm. It really does. Although I think I'd go Harris, Hinch, and Greenberg instead of Harris, Greenberg, and Hinch, or Greenberg, Harris, and Hinch. Anyway, the point being that it's a good idea for them to send Matt Manning down and bring Reese Olson up. And like I said, Casey Mize is going to be on an innings limit. If he throws 150 innings this year, I'll be surprised. So you're coming off of Tommy John and back surgery. And by the way, he's added a couple of miles an hour to his fastball. It's interesting. I read an article in The Athletic a couple of days ago. Cody Stavenhagen, by the way, the guy that is the beat writer for the Tigers in The Athletic. Really, really good writer, good informative piece. So I read an article a couple of days ago about why the Tigers pitchers are throwing harder. And it has to do with them being able to keep their front leg straight. They call it blocking the front leg. And Casey Mize, because he had back issues, wasn't able to do that. And now because he's had this back surgery and he feels better, he's able to actually go in and keep a straight front leg. And by doing that, it's allowing his body to generate more speed on his fastball, which I find interesting. So he's doing that, and all the Tigers pitchers are doing that. And as a result, you get people like Tarek Skubal hitting 100 and Jackson Jobe hitting 102. Jackson Jobe really impressed me with his one inning in relief in spring training, because not only did he hit 101.8 miles an hour on his fastball, but his changeup was at 84. If you can get that kind of a speed difference, you're gonna be pretty effective. So, with all of that being said, the Tigers have finalized their starting rotation. Really, there's 4 guys fighting for two bullpen spots. 2 of them don't have options, so this is kind of a foregone conclusion. Alex Faedo and Drew Anderson both have options. Miguel Diaz and Joey Wentz don't. I really think Drew Anderson is the odd man out here, and Miguel Diaz, I think, is also the odd man out. And here's the reason that I think that Joey Wentz and Alex Faedo make the opening day roster. And Anderson gets sent down to the minors, and Miguel Diaz ends up on waivers. You have to look at it from the numbers standpoint. So Joey Wentz and Miguel Diaz, neither one of them have options. So they cannot be sent back down to the minors unless they clear waivers. So what has to happen is, let's assume that Miguel Diaz doesn't make this 26-man squad. So he doesn't make it into the bullpen. Let's assume your bullpen is Alex Faedo, Joey Wentz, Andrew Chafin, Tyler Holton, Jason Foley, and Alex Lang. Okay. I know I'm missing somebody there. Let's see. Faedo, Wentz. Holton, Chafin. Oh, Shelby Miller. So you're gonna have a bullpen of Alex Faedo, Joey Wentz, Tyler Holton, Andrew Chafin, Shelby Miller, Jason Foley, Alex Lang. So you've got those options. Okay, first of all, it's going to be 3 lefties in the pen, which is something that AJ Hinch doesn't generally do a lot of, but he has done it before. So Drew Anderson gets sent down. Miguel Diaz is going to end up on waivers. He's going to get designated for assignment. If he clears waivers, then he has options again. He can go down to the minors. If he doesn't clear waivers, somebody claims him, and it is what it is. But here's the thing. Miguel Diaz is a 1 inning, maybe 2 inning reliever, and he's right-handed. There's a boatload of those guys out on the waiver wire right now. So he has a better chance of clearing waivers than Joey Wentz. Joey Wentz is left-handed. Not only is he a bulk reliever in the sense that he can give you 2 innings, but he could be stretched out as a starter. So if you keep him around, you don't run the risk of another team picking him up and him coming back later on and either starting against you or cutting off a rally against you later on in the game. So from a strategic standpoint, it makes more sense to let Miguel Diaz go. And you gave up Shane Green to get this guy. Shane Green was a bona fide closer. You gave him up specifically to get Joey Wentz. Joey Wentz came over in the Shane Green deal back in 2019. Now, Scott Harris could argue, oh, I didn't do that. That was Alavila. That was an Alavila deal. And it was, but there was still some capital that was given up to get Joey Wentz as compared to Miguel Diaz. So from that standpoint, look, you want to make it, Joey Wentz has something. He just has to figure it out. He's younger. You're going to get more from him. It's just better to put Miguel Diaz on waivers and see if he clears waivers and try to sneak him through than it is for you to run the risk of doing the same thing with Joey Wentz. He's left-handed. He throws 95 miles an hour, and he's versatile. So keep him around. Let him get things figured out. Sadly, he's going to have to get knocked around in the big leagues for a little while, but he can handle it. So that's what we're looking at there. Now, here is where I am going to make an idiot out of myself in episode 1. It is time for predictions. It is time to make a decision as to what this team is going to be. The roster, of course, hasn't been finalized yet, but we're going to go here anyway because that's what we do. So, this Detroit Tigers team is, number one, it's going to finish above 500. It's going to have at least 83 wins. To win this division, you're going to have 87, 88 wins at least. I am calling it right now. The Detroit Tigers are going to win the American League Central this year. This division is ready for the taking. This division is... Minnesota didn't do a lot. They lost starting pitching, and they're counting on the health of somebody who hasn't been able to stay healthy for at least 4 years. Byron Buxton's only full season was 2020, and that wasn't even a full season. Byron Buxton hasn't played a full season since Miguel Cabrera was winning Triple Crowns. So he's not going to stay healthy. He makes your lineup go. Johan Duran has an oblique injury. They've got some other relief issues, some other relief pitching issues. And Anthony DeSclafani is starting the season on the injured list as well. You lose Sonny Gray, you lose Kenta Maeda, you replace him with Anthony DeSclafani? Okay. I suppose. And look, a lot of people make a big deal out of, Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, blah, 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 blah. And why am I picking on Minnesota? Because they're the team that won the division last year. So that's the team that you need to beat. And Detroit can do that. Detroit beat them 8 out of 13 times last year. Detroit needs to have a fast start. They need to have a good March and a good April. If they're playing 500 baseball at the end of April, they're winning this division. It's there for the taking, and they need to take it. They need to grab it by the horns. They need to take it, and this is a team that can do that, provided Riley Green can stay healthy. Riley Green gets hurt, all bets are off. But I'm telling you right now, with a healthy Riley Green, this team wins the division and gets into the playoffs. That is my prediction for 2024. 87 wins and a division title. Now, once they get into the playoffs, all bets are off. But 87 wins, division title. Mark it down. Monday, March 25th, 2024. The Tigers Baseball Podcast is saying that the Detroit Tigers are going to win the division. I pause for people to laugh. Okay, there you go. I want to thank Anchor for the distribution of the podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, of all of those different podcast methods, I appreciate it. Check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/@TB Podcast. We're on Mastodon, TB Podcast, @tweescake.social. We're on Twitter, @PodcastTigers. You can email the show, tigersbaseballpodcast@gmail.com. It's the world's longest email address, and I'm proud of that. With that, we will be back next week. Opening day is on Thursday. Scooble versus Crochet in Chicago, a battle of two hard-throwing lefties. We're ready to go, folks. Baseball starts in 4 days. Thanks for listening. See you next Monday.